Hey everyone, how's it going? It's me, Pratik, and my buddy Christian over here, back to you with our Freshly Squeezed Sports podcast. Uh, you know what we're going to be talking about today, the Raptors and Celtics sweep. Big time wins. I mean, obviously both teams were down, Brooklyn and Philly, they were down a lot of key players, but, there was still a big dominating factor there, so let's get right into it, man.
Yeah, well, particularly that Brooklyn team, that was we almost expected the sweep. I had them in five personally. I thought there was might have been a game where a classic Raptors game. I was thinking game one, obviously not a great history for Raptors game ones,
Yeah.
where we would have had a lapse. But I think we kept our composure. Game two was probably the closest thing to that. They kind of gave us a run. That was really their only shot in the series. But overall, man, what a series by our team, especially that last one tonight. That hot 100-point record-breaking NBA playoff bench
Oh
performance.
man.
That was crazy, man. What do you think about that?
Bench mob destruction. That was insane. That just proves how deep our team is. Can. There's like no way around it. Even if our starting players are not there, clearly we can count on guys to do big offensive games, drop 20 plus games, play on the defensive end too. And
Well, this game, obviously, I feel like Brooklyn was definitely a little checked out. I think they
mhm.
knew probably in the third quarter at some point that this was going to be their last game in the bubble and they were going home. So it seemed like they checked out. So, I mean, that number is huge, but it really does. My point to that is a lot of people are going to be saying that, that's the case, right? The Brooklyn team was checked out. So how much
Mhm.
validity is there to that? But they were there all series long. Norman Powell had fantastic performances. Let's talk about him for a second. First of all, him not only we expect him to be a shooter
Mhm.
is essentially what it is, but his ability to drive to the hole, and he has postered maybe he might have four posters from this whole series, one for each game,
Yeah.
man. He was absolutely lighting it up, driving to the rim, taking it with authority. He had one over Allen tonight. He had another one, I forget who was over, but he has been absolutely lighting it up, and that's the aggressive playoff Powell. People would say playoff P for Paul George. It's playoff P. That's Norman Powell. Put some respect on playoff
Put some
Powell, man.
put some
Right,
respect on his name, honestly.
right, yeah,
And
yeah,
he was the leading scorer today's game too, and like that's with Lowry going out early on in the game. Um, you
yeah.
know, Van Vliet even took a backseat today, played really little minutes. So who do we expect to step up? And that was Mr. Playoff
But
Foul.
you know what? Props to Brooklyn. Props to Brooklyn Nets because that team is going to be absolutely savage when everyone gets back. They got
Ridiculous.
obviously everyone knows KD and Kyrie, right?
hmm
Um, then you
Jamal
got
Crawford still.
Jamal
Um,
Crawford. They
DeAndre
signed.
Jordan.
DeAndre Jordan's got to come back. Torian
Yeah.
Prince. They're
hmm
missing Prince, right? And Karis LeVert is a
There's
baller.
Levert. Oh yeah.
He had a great game tonight. He was dropping a lot of points. His shooting's amazing. He's good at taking it to the hole. He
Yep.
he proved all series long, and even in the regular season in the bubble that
hmm
that they're going to be a threat next year. And so I'm really glad that we're seeing them this year in the playoffs when
Yeah,
it's they're a lot easier to handle.
that's true.
But so respect to them. Now let's look at the other series. The guys we're facing up against the Boston Celtics.
Uh-huh.
Um, what do you think of that sweep? Are you surprised by that sweep? What do you think about
Not
it?
not necessarily. After Ben Simmons went out, I thought that maybe Philly would win one game, but that's just because of the fact that Joel Embiid. I thought he'd feast in the paint, especially with no backbone. Like that's the one thing that Celtics lack, right? Is a big post player.
Yeah, they don't
So
have a lot of front court depth for sure.
yeah, so that's a major thing. You would expect Embiid to do more, but I don't know why he was on the perimeter sometimes, and they just played him in the wrong way, I think.
And we've spoken about that a lot, right? Like he falls
Yeah.
in love with his shot, and I think he definitely took a lot more threes than we would have
hmm
liked because every time he took it to the paint, he was either getting a foul call or making the bucket.
Exactly.
Like he was looking, but I don't know if he has the cardio. Like, it's been kind of something over his whole career where, he hasn't been able to practice with the team as much, or he can't go
Mm-hmm.
as hard as practice because they're worried about his durability.
Right.
And so this was really one of the first nights. I don't watch too many Sixers games, to be honest, during the regular season, but I noticed it heavily tonight. Like, he looked exhausted. And I don't know if it's because it was the full series and he was been carrying the load since Simmons is out, or if
Mm-hmm.
this is something that's a regular occurrence. But he was in the paint tonight and he looked tired by the end of the game.
Yeah.
So I would bring his cardio into question. And obviously Brett Brown, I'm gonna have to bring this up. He has not done a good job with that team. I don't know what kind of the culture doesn't seem right there. It seems like there's too much politics. The benefit of a team like a reason I think the Raptors are so good is we've talked about that winning culture, and especially with a coach like Nick Nurse, a guy in Masai Ujiri who gives Nick Nurse a lot of freedom. Nick Nurse gives the players a lot of freedom,
Yeah.
right? All Nick Nurse wants to see, like we've spoken about, is defensive intensity,
Mm-hmm.
how hard you're playing on the defensive end. If you're not making shots, it's not a reason to take you out of the game. I don't
Exactly.
think. I think in Philly, what happened was the GM spent a lot of money in the offseason, made a lot of big decisions. Butler let go, Redick let go, pay Harris, pay Horford, right?
So see, I have a huge question to ask you here, right? And this is what I'm going to segue with. I was actually talking to my cousin about this, and this is why I want to bring this up. But basically, what do you think was the bigger loss? Jimmy Buckets and Redick leaving 76ers, or Kawhi and Danny Green leaving the Raptors? What team do you think suffered the bigger loss, and
It's
why?
100% got to be Jimmy Buckets and Redick leaving the Sixers
Right?
without
That's what I
question.
think too. Yeah.
Without question, just so you can see it in the performance and how we've been doing this year.
Yeah.
We swept our first round series, finished third in the NBA, and they got swept in their first round series and didn't end up so good. Sixth in the East, they were
Hmm.
coming in. I thought this was one of the best starting fives in the. I thought it was the best starting five in
Yeah.
the NBA. But let me break it down. So why that decision was so crazy, right? Why that loss was so huge.
Hmm.
Let's start with Jimmy Butler. He was a guy when they traded for him last year. He has the reputation of calling people out in practice. There was that whole thing in Minnesota, right, where he was calling people out. That's what sparked the whole trade request talk. Is
Yeah.
he was yelling at the coaches in his practice. He was getting wild,
Hmm.
demanding more out of Wiggins and Cat. He was beating the A team guys with a bunch of B team players
Yeah.
on Minnesota, right? So that was the whole thing. He's a hard playing guy. He's not afraid to call people out,
Hmm.
not afraid of confrontation, and that's why he fits in so well in Miami, because Miami loves that stuff. They're
Yeah.
all hardworking grinders. Pat Riley there, Eric Spoelstra, they love that stuff, right? So that's the big first loss. They lost the confidence he brings to the team, his obviously his late game shot making ability, and just the he kind of wanted to establish a pecking order, and he's come out on interviews saying, like they didn't have a pecking order there in Philly.
Yeah, yeah. See, that's why, like, a man like Jimmy Butler played well with Dwayne Wade while they were on the Bulls, because Dwayne Wade has the same mentality, you know? He played for Miami almost his entire career, or for most of
What
his career at least, right?
Wade saw the dog in him. That's what
Yeah,
it was, right? Right? He saw the
yeah,
dog in him
man.
and he loved him, right? That was
Exactly.
they were good on the Bulls. I
They
like
were good
that
on the
too.
Bulls, yeah.
But yeah, so that's with Jimmy Buckets, right? Now JJ Redick
Mm-hmm.
switching to Al Horford, right? Immediately there, you see the massive difference. Get rid of his shooting guard, massive catch and shoot
Yeah,
guy.
wait, yeah.
Someone who
Big
is
difference.
just makes absurd shots on the run, on the fly, the exact kind of guy that you would imagine they
Yeah.
need right now, and put in a big center. He's
Mm-hmm.
a center who they put in at power forward to clog the lane, slow things down,
Mm-hmm.
lost some shooting, right? So that's the big thing they lost in Redick. And Horford, here's what I think though, and I was making this case earlier that um, they can still make it work. Like they have all the talent in the world, but in today's NBA, you can't put Horford and Embiid on the same court on the court at the same time. This is what
Yeah.
happened with the Raptors. We noticed it with JV early last year. It was JV and Ibaka, and we've talked about this on our previous pod,
Yeah, we have.
right? JV and
Yeah.
Ibaka, having them play together, like the guys like Ibaka used to be a four. JV's a clear five.
Yeah.
Ibaka used to be a four. Horford used to be a four,
Four, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Not in this NBA anymore. And
Yeah,
so
that's
we figured
true.
it out last year with Ibaka. We threw him on the bench as our backup five.
Five, yeah. Yeah.
Well, he was actually our starting five until we traded Jay Fever,
I'm talking
Gasol.
about
Then
Gasol,
Gasol turned into
became
a
the
starting
starting
five.
five, yeah.
You know the drill exactly.
Yeah.
And so I think that's something they need to seriously consider. The new
Yeah.
coach in Philly, whenever he shows up, whoever replaces Rep Brown, they need to throw Horford on the bench. Embiid needs to be the starter, and it needs to run like two different teams. There needs to be Embiid's team, and there needs to be Horford's team and
Horford's team,
lineup.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also if you interchange players, like, because you can't have like concrete lineups, but like to interchange them, like if they both play the five, then you just, you know what I mean? Everyone can
Yeah.
adjust their play style around just those two guys. Because
Exactly.
that should be a center heavy team. Because even Ben Simmons, he doesn't always need to be the offensive guy. He's a good facilitator too. So sometimes he should stick to that. I think.
Absolutely. I agree.
So,
And but here's where the politics comes into play, and I think the organization and the culture, right? There's that level of freedom in the front office with everyone trusts each other. Masai trusts Nick trusts the players, right? Everyone trusts each other. The GM spends so much money on these players, Harris and Horford, right? I think it's got to be coming from the top. Like there's a certain point where I don't know if it's coming from Brett Brown. Like it seems so obvious of a change to make, especially when you look at their plus minus. I saw a stat. It was like Embiid on the floor without Horford in this playoff series was I don't know, he was like a -2 with Embiid on. With Horford on without Embiid, it was like a +6, that lineup, right? When they were both on together in the series, it was like -36 or something
Oh.
crazy. And it seems such an obvious change to make, and the reason they don't do it, it seems like it's got to be coming from the top, from the GM,
Yeah.
saying we paid these guys, they have to be starters. We kind of marketed them as the best starting five in the league. Make it work, right?
Which
And
is
so
not
I don't
okay,
think
yeah.
there's that trust between the front office to the coaches and the coaches to the players. And I think that's the difference, and because they have the talent and everyone knows it, right?
Yeah. Another thing that I noticed in their play style is whenever they do have Ben Simmons as well, because Ben Simmons can't shoot, they always try and force Joel Embiid to stretch it and then try and take shots like that. But it doesn't. I don't know why it needs to work that way. I think Ben Simmons should just work on his shot, or you should get rid of Ben Simmons and find a facilitator who can shoot.
Absolutely, I
Yeah.
agree. I agree.
Because
Um,
I've said many times that those two guys can be a lot better on different teams.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And it's, maybe it's something we can see make it work. If you got a new coaching change in there, we'll see how it goes. But like you said, the lack of shooting is a big problem, right? Yeah. And so let's talk about the other side of the coin. We've talked a lot about the losing team in that series. How about
yeah.
the Boston Celtics, man?
Oh my
What do you
days.
think about them coming into our matchup with them next round?
Well, I think that I think we've said this before too, that in the playoff series, the Celtics are a scarier matchup than even Milwaukee for Raptors, just because of the individual player matchups that we're about to face. Kemba Walker going off against Lowry, Jaylen Brown is going to be locked up with Siakam. We're going to have Jason Tatum with maybe OG Anunoby, you know, like. The thing
Hayward
is,
out.
I think
Hayward out.
Hayward out, but they still have three ISO shooters who can just light it up if they want to. Like today's game, Kemba Walker I was pretty sure he was the leading scorer, and then followed by Jason Tatum. He still had an amazing game, but those two guys can boogie, man. And I think that on our team, I think the boys are showing that they can do it more. Norman Powell, yes. I think we have to see a little bit from Siakam that he can battle somebody. Lowry, we obviously don't need to doubt. He's shown up many times before.
Well, here's where I'm not concerned with those guys is on the defensive end of the floor, and
Yeah,
that's
that's
where
true.
I was talking about Nick Nurse. He doesn't care. You know what? You're not making shots. As fans, we see that. We see Siakam's not playing well. As
Hmm.
much as he hasn't been lighting it up on offense, he's been doing fantastic on the
On the
defensive end.
defensive end,
He's a
yeah.
big body. Him and OG, I don't see a way with. Here's the thing. So let's go through the individual matchups, right? Kemba and Jalen Brown versus our front court, Lowry and Van Vliet.
Yeah,
Lowry's enough of a bulldog. Lowry and Van Vliet are enough of dogs to
definitely.
where,
Yeah.
honestly, I'm more worried about Jalen Brown in that matchup. Kemba has proven to be a good leader. He can score and facilitate. So I'm worried about him facilitating. Jalen Brown, he's really good at getting to the rim.
Hmm.
He's a good stand-up shooter. I'm not going to be worried too much about his shooting in this series, I don't think.
Yeah.
Um, but where it's going to make the biggest difference is I think our bigs are going to have to be the game changers in this series.
Hmm.
I think our other matchups, well, like as much as Kemba and Brown are good, Van Vliet
Yeah,
and Lowry have proven to be an elite backcourt.
for
Then
sure.
you got Tatum and no longer Hayward. So who's
Yeah.
filling in that spot? I think it's Williams, right?
I think today.
Robert Williams.
No, today I think it was Daniel Dace.
Well, Tice is the center,
Tice,
yeah.
sorry, yeah,
Yeah,
Daniel
Daniel
Tice,
Tice is the center.
yeah.
Um,
Or Marcus Smart was
but
probably
these
the
guys, like, we're worried about locking down Tatum, right? So
yeah.
OG and Siakam are our wings that are going to be there, and I
Right.
think that's an absolute lockdown. I don't see he's gonna get his because that's the great player he is. He's a tough shot maker, but when it comes down to it, I trust that OG and Siakam are going to be
Yeah.
able to lock him down. And
They
then,
should be able to lock him down. I don't think we have to worry about the defensive end. That's exactly why I'm just emphasizing the ISO ball play because I think that hopefully OG and Siakam can stack up, against Jason's ISO play, Jalen
yeah,
Brown's ISO play. Well, Van Vliet definitely can match up.
yeah.
Kyle Lowry can. I just want to see it with the other guys. Hopefully they show out.
So how about I've aired my grievances with you about this guy for a few games now.
Yeah.
Marcus Saul.
Uh-huh.
I think he's the X factor in this series. I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there. Like I said, I think our bigs, we are a much bigger team. I don't see anyone who's going to be able to stop Gasol and Ibaka if they're aggressive. Ibaka, I know, is going to come with the heat.
Hmm.
He's going to be aggressive. Ibaka's a dog. He's always been a dog. Make or miss, he's going to be aggressive. I love the way he's been playing recently. Gasol, he has been way too passive. I think in this Brooklyn series, he had a really good chance to, with all these blowouts, we had our last two games were massive 30-point blowouts.
Hmm.
He had an opportunity early to get aggressive, and it seems like he starts aggressive. He always comes out, and I'm like, yes, Mark, great. He's shooting. He always starts the game aggressive and then slows down, starts looking for the pass. I told you there was a game where he was literally right under the basket with was it Jalen Brown on him or something like that? I think it was
Hmm.
Brown on him, right under the basket. I'm like, just put your hands up and throw it in the basket, man. Like you got the size on this guy, you got the position on this guy, and all he's looking to do is pass. And I think that kind of passiveness from Gasol isn't going to fly in this series. We need him to be aggressive down low in the post and also look for his shot. If they're going to leave you open, which a lot of teams do, take your shot, man.
I
He's
agree.
got to trust his shot more. And I feel that when he misses a few, that's when like he started off 1 for 5, and I saw an immediate dip in his aggressiveness. So I
Yeah.
think he's in his head too much. He's got to trust himself as a scorer and keep shooting.
Yeah, he does, man. And especially because there's no answer for him on the Celtics. Enes Kanter, I don't know how well he could really do against
He's-
Gasol and Ibaka. He's good, but no.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not enough. It's not enough to stop those guys.
I agree,
Especially not in
especially
the
on the
playoffs.
perimeter. Especially on the
Yeah.
perimeter
Yeah,
if
and
he's
on the perimeter.
looking for a shot, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
And it's one or the other. If we had Ibaka and Marcus all on the floor, they're gonna have some serious issues because both
yes,
guys can stretch it, but both guys can also dominate inside. So we'll see what happens.
exactly, exactly.
I don't know. Let's talk about Kemba Walker though, because I think that in the first few games of the series, he had a few minute restrictions, and that's why he wasn't obviously popping off. But today we saw how good he was.
Yeah, he's an elite player in this league.
Yeah,
He's an him stepping in for Kyrie seems like the best team thing to
it
happen to
does.
this
It was a
team.
great decision. Yeah.
His mentality, his attitude, he's constantly praising. It's a great culture. That's another
Mhm.
place where Boston reminds me a lot of Toronto, where they have trust throughout their entire system, and
Mhm.
it's from the GM down to the coach. Brad Stevens trusts in his players, and it's amongst the players where you see them all getting. It's all praise amongst each other, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
No
you
one's
can
looking
tell.
for the praise themselves.
Mhm.
Kemba's constantly saying, I was watching the game the other day, and the announcer was saying how Kemba, he's essentially passed leadership on to Tatum and Brown, and he said, "I know it's not my team." Like I'm just like trying to give them the reins and give them the confidence to be
Mhm.
the leaders of this team. And then you see Tatum and Brown firing back at Kemba saying, no, this is a multiple leader team. We have multiple leaders. Kemba is one of the biggest leaders on this team. So it's just a culture, man. Like they all feed off each other. And that's a dangerous thing for any team that's playing against them. And I think this is a matchup, a playoff matchup I could not be more excited for, man. I've been
I
waiting to see
agree.
this matchup for so long. I cannot wait to see what goes down. I've got the Raptors coming
In
up.
six.
I think we match up well. Our team build, I think we match up well. I think we can do it. I've got the Raptors in, yeah, 6 or 7, give or take.
Yeah,
But it's
give or
not going to be
take.
easy. And
It's not gonna be
expect
easy. Yeah.
expect their big players to make big plays.
Mhm. It probably will be a Game Seven series, but I hope we get him in six.
Yes,
But we'll
sir.
see. Hey everyone, how you doing? Thanks for tuning in to our podcast today at Fresh Squeeze Sports. Make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe. You already know we're going to be coming to you with new crazy content, talking about the bubble, talking about the playoffs. So make sure you stay tuned, stay engaged. Also give us a follow on Instagram, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Take care.